under fading skies. Tattered flags waving dreams in our eyes. The crowds roar like a storm on the wind. We're the underdogs fighting again.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Stateside Footy, and it is the first MLS live stream of the 2026 season. And before you begin, yes, I realize we are in match week 3, but I was out of the country for the first couple weeks of the season, and so from that standpoint, it just is what it is. So here we are, live from Energizer Park tonight in St. Louis, Missouri, as St. Louis City SC will play host to my beloved Seattle Sounders. And it should be quite an interesting matchup. And, of course, St. Louis City started the season on a loss and a draw. And Seattle, of course, split their first two, beating Colorado at home to open the damn thing. And then, of course, drops to Real Salt Lake in their second match. And so from that standpoint, not really much to draw on the first 2 weeks of the season, except for the fact that the injury bug has hit Seattle yet again. And from that standpoint, you know, when you're looking at the starting 11s tonight, somehow, you know, when you have a guy like Danny Mozovsky sitting on your bench and you're playing a guy like Ozazi De Rosario ahead of him, it's a little bit of a head scratcher considering last season, of course, Danny Mozovsky finished with 15 goals last year. Actually, a matter of fact, it might even have been 19 last year in a substitute, I guess you can say in a substitute situation. But that being said, it's going to be Ozazi tonight. Let's go ahead and get into it because Jordan Morris isn't the only Sounder to be out, as Seattle will line up in a 4-2-3-1, and of course Brian Schmetzer likes to employ the double pivot. It looks like Andrew Thomas will be in goal tonight. A back four shouldn't be surprising, as Alex Roldan and Yuhu Tolo will be your wing backs, with Jackson Reagan and Yaimar as the center back pairing. Hassani Dotson and Christian Roldan will be that midfield pivot. And even though I'm not the biggest Hassani Dotson fan, it's a major drop-off from what the Sounders had last year with Obed Vargas. And of course, he gets the move to Atletico Madrid. Not a lot of faith in that midfield double pivot, but it is what it is. Your attacking four is going to be Snyder Brunel on the right-hand side, with Jesus Ferreira off the left, Albert Rusnik playing in that cam role, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, Ozazi De Rosario will get the striker duties tonight. Quite an interesting situation, considering that Snyder Brunel is more of what you would consider a box-to-box type of midfielder. Paul Rothrock is out with a little bit of an ankle injury. So from that standpoint, it puts Snyder Brunel a little bit higher up the pitch, a little bit of an unknown from that right side, a little bit surprising considering that they do have Paul Arriola on the bench, and they also have Georgie Monongo as well. Two options that potentially could make sense, because considering like when all things are equal, Jesus Ferrer is more of a right-sided attacker. Tonight he's going to be on the left. Could have made a little bit of sense to play Paul Arriola tonight. Yes, but apparently Brian Schmetzer likes himself some Snyder Brunel, so it is what it is. It's going to be an interesting match from a Seattle standpoint, just considering the options that are available for St. Louis City, and it looks like they are going to be lined up in a 4-3-3. In net will be Burkey, a back four of Santos, Baumgartel, Polvara, and Orozco, a midfield three of Wallum, Edelman, and Durkin, and an attacking three of Hartl, Becker, and Teichert, whatever. And for St. Louis City, it is going to be a consistent stream of goals. Who is going to be that guy who's going to essentially take this team by the scruff of the neck and be that goal provider? Through the first couple matches of the season, not too many goals. As a matter of fact, I think they've only scored one. And of course, that one goal came from Hartl. And good player, good left-sided attacker. So from that standpoint, there is some decent production coming down that left-handed side for St. Louis. But really, considering Seattle is, I guess you can say, a little bit vulnerable in that midfield, and of course, because Seattle likes to leak goals at inopportune time, the best way to attack them is literally straight through the midfield. It's going to be interesting to see, considering it is a World Cup year and Christian Roldan is still within the U.S. men's national team sphere. I think a lot of people noticed Tim Ream in that opening weekend and also last week for Charlotte, for FC Charlotte. And, maybe Christian Roldan might be in that conversation as well. Didn't necessarily look all that great against Real Salt Lake. Couple of up and down performances as well, too. But that being said, when you're in that position where you're looking for a World Cup roster, you're not, you can't afford to have those type of matches. So it's going to be a very, very interesting situation tonight for Christian Roldan as well, too. So it's going to be interesting to see exactly how it plays out. Quickly, before we get to the chat, let's go ahead and look around Major League Soccer. As NYCFC absolutely beat the shit out of Orlando City, as Maxim Crepu took a red card in the 16th minute. And it looks like NYCFC got started early as Augustin Ojeda scored the 21st minute, Nicolas Fernandez in the 42nd minute, Maxi Morales scored in the 45+7, which was a penalty, and Keaton Parks bags a brace in the 49th and 54th minute as Orlando City just literally got their asses handed to tonight. It happens. Let's see. Where else? All right. New England and the Houston Dynamo were postponed. Inter Miami beats DC United tonight 2-1 with Rodrigo De Paul scoring, and obviously Messi in the 27th minute. Ty Baribo scored for DC United in the 75th, but it wasn't enough. And of course, it's Inter Miami. Not exactly all that surprising. At the half right now, Philadelphia and San Jose are still 0-0. In the 45+4, Austin and Charlotte are tied 1-1 as Morrison Aubameyang scored an own goal with Austin, and then it looks like Morrison Aubameyang scored an own goal for Charlotte. With Idan Tokomati scoring in the 29th minute. But Guillermo Biro took a red card in the 25th minute for Austin, so they are playing with a man down. And Real Salt Lake is beating Atlanta United in the 45+5 as Sergi Solan scored for Real Salt Lake. Aiden Herzakani and Xavier Gozo. Xavier Gozo scored, and that kid is absolutely amazing. He scored in the 40th minute with Moranchek scoring for Atlanta United in the 38th minute. So it looks like Real Salt Lake will probably hang on to that one. Columbus and Chicago are tied 0-0 at the half. And later tonight, Sporting KC will host San Diego FC. Minnesota will travel to Nashville, and that's going to be an interesting matchup as well too. Because me personally, I'm all in on Nashville SC. I actually think Nashville is a very, very, very good soccer club, and it's going to be interesting to see exactly how that one plays out over the course of the year. The LA Galaxy are going to be in Colorado to take on the Rapids. And of course, the Rapids are playing pretty well under their new head coach, former Tottenham Hotspur assistant Matt Wells. Vancouver will be in Portland, and FC Dallas will be in LA to take on LAFC. And of course, tomorrow, Montreal will play the New York Red Bulls, and Toronto will play FC Cincinnati. Let's go ahead and see if we are ready for this one. And it looks like we are. Right. It's going to be interesting. Actually, before we get into this take, let's go ahead and check out the chat. We have Dan Davenport, who said it's the world famous Steve, Stateside Footy Spurs fans. Good to see you, Dan. And he said, let's see, could you see Spurs board doing a deal with Pochettino? Could he do both roles? No, he can't. No, he can't. This isn't FIFA. It doesn't work that way where you can be the head coach of a national team and a head coach of a club team. It just doesn't work that way. The interesting thing is it's whether or not they're actually even interested in Pochettino. I mean, it makes perfect sense, but we're also talking about a team that doesn't operate with common sense. Right now, Pochettino and his staff are 100% fixated on coaching in a World Cup, and for that standpoint, that's where their attention is. Now, can he sign a pre-agreement? Yes, he can. If he gets together with the U.S. Soccer Federation board and just says, "Hey, listen, I'm going to go back to Spurs after the World Cup. I'm giving you a heads up. I'm going to sign a pre-agreement just so I know that my next job is there. But between now and the end of the World Cup, I'm the head coach of the U.S. men's national team." Can he do that? Of course he can. Of course he can. And me personally, I would actually like it that way, because one of the things that has to happen is, especially for Spurs, if they stay up, and that's going to be a big if, is they're going to have to hit the ground running as soon as the World Cup ends. They're going to have to hit the ground running, and having a coach in place is going to be massive. The only issue that I have with Robbie Keane is he's coaching in Hungary. He's coaching Ferencváros, and it is what it is, right? He's coaching. He is essentially climbing the coaching ladder. This is like the first step for a coach in Europe, where he's getting his feet wet as a coach, and he's doing it with a relatively good team, a team that competes in European play, but it's not a big club. And you would like to think that the next appointment for a guy like Robbie Keane would be something like Celtic or Rangers or something like that. Up a step, a big club, up a step. Depending on that, and then after that, maybe a move to the Premier League. But for him to come straight from Ferencváros, it doesn't make any sense. All right, so the interesting thing is, I think for Seattle, specifically tonight, sure, staying healthy throughout the course of this thing is going to be unbelievably important. And I don't think that is hyperbole, but for the course of the 2026 season, last year they were decimated by injuries early. They lost Areola, they lost João Paulo, they lost Jordan Morris twice. They even lost Albert Rusnik for a time as well too. Yes, they were able to hold it together because they had adequate enough depth. Yes, they won a trophy, but it didn't seem like it was the start of something new. It seemed like it was almost the last gasp of an aging core. And this offseason, they did absolutely nothing. Yes, they brought in Hassani Dotson. Okay, great. Hassani Dotson, to me, is nothing more than a rotational midfield. And when you look at Seattle, from a cap standpoint, they're up against it because of what I consider dumb decisions in their business. At some point, you're going to have to make tough decisions. And when you have players that are injured or old, even if they're fan favorites, you're going to have to make some tough decisions. And I've been on record by saying this, like after the 2022 World Cup, that whole 2022 season, when Seattle won the CONCACAF Champions League, and they missed the playoffs for the first time in their franchise history, they go into the World Cup. And after that, or even next summer, it was the opportunity to start a rebuild, because Jordan Morris was coming off a second an ACL injury in his knee. He's had one on both knees, and the dude just can't stay healthy. And so instead of making the hard decision, and I understand, because you're coming out of COVID and you need ticket sales to be back to where they were, and you have to do it with marketable stars. I understand it from a business standpoint, but from a soccer standpoint, it just didn't necessarily make much sense. And so they give a guy like Jordan Morris a contract where if he meets specific targets, it turns into a DP contract. And sure enough, in his one healthy season, he actually sets a career high for goals, and all of a sudden he becomes a DP. And now you can't move him. Whereas if you would have done it back then, he was a World Cup member of the U.S. men's national team World Cup squad. His value would have been at an all-time high, and who knows exactly if they would have made that somebody else's problem. And Seattle could have done themselves a solid by wiping the decks clean, having a whole bunch of cap space available, and the possibilities for a rebuild were endless. And I understand there would be some growing pains along the way. But that being said, it's Seattle. If anybody knows how to build a team around Brian Schmetzer, it's the Sounders. Except Craig Weibel didn't do it, and it is what it is. Here we are, and now we're in a situation where, in order for this team to get success again, it's going to have to stay healthy. And we've already seen, by the way, Jordan Morris go down within the first 10, 15 minutes of the opening match of the season, and he's lost for the entire month of March, right? And so that's a concern. And so, man, oh man, if Seattle has any shot, that's exactly what's going to have to happen. They're going to have to stay healthy. More importantly, they're going to have to defend. I'm still a believer in Jackson Reagan, and I'm still a believer in Ymar. These two were probably the best center back pairing 2 years ago. They were very good. Last year, inexplicably, things broke down, and they leaked goals. And we saw that last year in the playoffs. And so from that standpoint, I'm looking at this like, if this team can get back to anything of what they were resembling 2 years ago, this is going to be a tough team to break down. But we're going to find out. For St. Louis, man, it's been a tough road, man. It has been it's been a really tough road, considering what they were when they came into the league. And I think it was like in their first year they had some pretty good success. And since then, really, it's been kind of like a downward trajectory. And last year, not so much, and who knows exactly how it's going to play out this season. But as far as I'm concerned, with St. Louis, it is going to be who is going to be that guy who is going to lead this team, who is going to be that consistent goal scorer that is going to be able to keep them competitive. We'll find out. We will definitely find out. Let's see. Did I get any World Cup, FIFA World Cup matches? Are you talking about tickets? I am waiting for a specific time to buy tickets. I got a guy. I'll just say that. Let's see. When I was young, one of my favorite TV shows was Knight Rider, David Hasselhoff. That's funny. David Hasselhoff. I remember that show, by the way. I really do. All right, so we're about to get into it, and we have win probabilities for tonight. Seattle is a plus 120 with the sportsbook, a 42% chance of winning tonight. St. Louis City, as of right now, are a 31 dog, 31% chance of winning, and I believe that is plus 300 some odd. So Seattle looks like they're in the driver's seat. Tonight in the VAR, it'll be Jorge Gonzalez and Mike Campmiart. And the beautiful thing about Major League Soccer and their VAR is they don't necessarily interject every single goddamn time. They generally like to let their referees they usually like to let the referees dictate the flow of the pace of the game and only interject if they have to. So we'll see how that one. As we are ready to kick off from Energizer Park in St. Louis, as St. Louis will be playing from right to left as they try to pull the okey doke right from the center circle to try to play one quick wide out left as that goes out. So Seattle will have the quick throw in here as the trickery. The dark arts didn't work for St. Louis as there's a throw in that will go all the way up as it will be retained by Christian Roldan, who will play it back to Jackson, who quickly plays it out to Nuhu with space as he will play it forward to Jesus Ferreira. Ferreira tries to play one on, but that is going to be headed up and cleared out. But right there is Ymar, who quickly plays it out to Alex Roldan. Here's Brunel. And that ball is going to trickle out. Seattle will keep possession as Brunel will hand it off. So it'll be a Seattle throw in deep down the right-hand side as we are a minute in. Good ball movement by Seattle as they got up the pitch pretty quick, as that ball will be thrown in. Looks like it was Alex Roldan, as that's going to be headed down. As Roldan tried to quickly get to that ball, it's going to get tapped out. And it again will be another Seattle throw-in. It would be kind of interesting to see the identity of what the St. Louis team is going to look like. As that ball will get thrown again, headed down, right to Jesus Ferreira, tries to play one on, but it didn't have enough power on it. As the keeper now will fling this all the way down the pitch, but it will come down as they were looking for Hartle. As Seattle now will regain possession, and this is going to be something that is probably going to be a constant all match long, as Seattle likes to hold possession, as that ball is going to get played through to Shelton. Excuse me, Snyder Brunel that's going to go off of Brunel. So this will be a St. Louis throw-in as they will play this all the way back. And it'll be Polvera. And now St. Louis now will try to play this up the left-hand side. And now they're going to have to play it back as Seattle tries to play the press in, as Albert Rusnik now will press the keeper and he'll get rid of it quickly. But right there was Jackson Reagan, as that will come down and Ymar will play it all the way back to Andrew Thomas. And now St. Louis will try to press Alex Roldan, taken away, cleared by Ymar, but St. Louis will hold it. And it looks like St. Louis has a man down on the pitch. Play continues as they are on the right-hand side of things. And now they're going to have to reset as they play it back between their center backs. As Snyder Brunel tries to press. Seattle's doing a pretty solid job. And now they're going to have to force to play it long. Tracking back is Alex Roldan, who gets there and will hold possession. And now Roldan will play it to the mid. Good job by St. Louis of taking this one away. And Alex Roldan will come up with it off the right-hand touchline, and there should be a whistle right there. And it will be. And it looks like it will be against Durkin. Pressing a little too hard. As Yohan Damat is the head coach of your St. Louis City SC soccer club. Not a bad job. Not a bad job if you're going to get the resources available. That one's going to get played all the way down the right-hand side. And it's going to be tipped out, so Seattle will have a throw-in. And it'll be Alex Roldan again. It looks like they're going to be employing the long throw here. I would probably assume that any job in Major League Soccer is a great gig to have if you're a head coach. Just with the league-wide resources. Maybe not in Montreal, but it is what it is. That one's going to be headed back, and now it's going to be cleared. But there's Ymar to play it back in. It's going to drop as Snyder Brunel tried to make a play, but as Jesus Ferreira didn't make the great pass. But that's a good play right there by Albert Ruzic to tip it away. So here comes the Sounders. It's Jackson. Oh, and he thought there was a foul. No foul given. So here comes St. Louis now on the counter. As they're going to try to play this through the mid. Ball into the box. He's there. Oh, what a play. What a play by Alex Roldan. As that was a good through ball, and it looked like it was going to be 1v1 with the keeper, and Roldan came in with a very good time tackle to take that away. Heads up play. As St. Louis will hold possession as they're going to try to play it down the left-hand side, and now they're going to rotate. As again, they try to play it into a central area, tipped away right at the feet of Ozazi. And now here comes Albert Rusnik, and he's going to try to play one forward. Heads up defense right there by St. Louis. As it looks like that was, Pulveri right there. As St. Louis now all of a sudden starting to flex their muscles a little bit. As Seattle tries to press. And now they find an open man down the left-hand side. Looks like it was Santos. As there's going to be combination play between him and Willem. As that ball has to get played back to the keeper. And St. Louis will try to reset within the press as Seattle is actually coming after him pretty good. Good chip shot, but right there is Alex Roldan. And Seattle will have possession of this as Ymar will track it back. And Seattle resets here with Jackson Reagan, who has a couple call-ins with the national team, a couple caps. As they play this one forward, here's Ozazi. As Christian Roldan will play it all the way to the left. And Nuhu will play it back to Reagan as they try to do a couple give and goes right there in the midfield. So here's Jesus Ferreira trying to play it forward to Nuhu, who's on it. As Ferreira plays it back to Nuhu as they're tracking back a little bit. And now they're going to have to play this all the way back. Nearly taken away in the midfield. I absolutely hate it when teams play the ball backwards. All you're doing is inviting press. Skin a man, play a ball into the box. It's not hard. As it's Jackson Reagan. It's like the in thing to do when you're holding possession. You don't want to give it up. I understand. But if teams are willing to run, it's not going to pay off. Here's Christian Roldan. As they're going to play this one now to Snyder Brunel. Good ball forward, a little too hard for Ozazi as that's going to get played right back to the keeper. So Seattle up Schitt's Creek right there on possession. Now here comes St. Louis. Working their way through the midfield. Good touch. And it looks like Willem will play it all the way out. Here's Santos. As that gets worked again down the left-hand side. as it looks like it's Hartle. And now St. Louis has to retreat. Not a bad touch right there, as St. Louis will hold possession. And it looked like that may have went out, but it looks like Newhue will try to head it as there was a switch right there. But St. Louis will hold it as there looks like they're trying to weave their way through the mid. And now they'll play it all the way out right. Two defenders converge. And that's taken away right there by Seattle. As Alex Rodon will play it back to Thomas. And it's Jackson Reagan now. This is what happens when you try to hold possession and do absolutely nothing with the ball. As it's Newhue. Plays it forward. And there was just nobody there. So 10 minutes in, the feel out period between these two teams has come and gone. No team necessarily dominant with the ball. Seattle at least had an opportunity early on within the first minute to play something in. But outside of that, outside of a couple long throws, there really hasn't been much. For St. Louis, they had that nice little through ball. But no shots on net. As St. Louis is relatively pinned back. With the ball, it looks like it's a 3-4-3. That's a good little flick on, as that'll go out. And it'll be a Seattle throw in 100%. And it looks like Hartle was continuing to try to play the ball forward, although obviously it was out. So Seattle will have the throw in. New kits this year for the Sounders. I kind of like them. Interesting color scheme with the Fleck blue, but a little bit of a lighter of a rave, a little bit of a lighter of the rave green. I actually like it compared to the vertical stripes of the last couple of years. Wasn't necessarily a big fan of that. That's a good throw in right there by Roldan. As Reagan will play it out to Newhue. As St. Louis is pressing the issue here. As Alex Roldan will play it forward to Snyder. Snyder's going to try to play it into the mid. He does, finds Albert Rusnik. Now here's Jesus Ferreira. Ferreira's going to try to play one in. Good defense right there by St. Louis. And here comes the counterattack. As St. Louis kept two guys forward. As they're going to try to play one forward. Here's Hartle. Oh, and there's Andrew Thomas right there with the save. Going to his left on his strong foot was Hartle. Put one on, didn't have a lot of power. But a good break right there by St. Louis. As Ymar was somewhat there, but again, Hartle didn't necessarily put a good shot necessarily when it comes to power. Didn't necessarily test Andrew Thomas, so Seattle will have the goal kick here. As they're going to try to play it forward. As it looks like Snyder Brunel is getting bullied a little bit. But he's actually going to try to weave himself right through the midfield. He's got Ozazi. And that ball's going to be taken away from Brunel. You got to play. You got to look forward, kid. And, of course, Snyder Brunel is, 18 years old? 17, 18? As St. Louis is in possession here, as they're going to try to weave this thing around their back three right there in midfield, as now there's the play to the left. And it is Hartle who comes deep to make a touch. And now they're going to try to play one up the right-hand side, and that's going to get out of play. So Seattle will have a throw-in off the left touch line. Halfway up, as this ball is finally going to get played forward. And St. Louis will come down. Good sliding tackle. Seattle will win it. Good save right there by Ymar. As Snyder Brunel will play it back to Alex Roldan, and so Seattle will reset with their center back pairing. And here's Newhue. Plays it forward. Here's Rusnik. And now we'll play it to Snyder. Good tip forward. Ozazi now will play it all the way to Alex Roldan. There's the switch to the right-hand side. And that was headed away. But right there is Ymar. Not exactly the greatest switch. And, good play right there. As Christian Roldan can't come away with it. And it looks like Ymar will make a little bit of an aggressive tackle right there. And it looks like it is, Becker who's rolling around on the ground. Doesn't look like it's going to be a yellow card, but Christian Roldan tried to step in on Becker. And it looks like Ymar may have potentially dragged him down by the shoulder, but yeah, he's okay. After the sell job, wins his team a free kick. From a pretty decent area, about 10 yards outside the 18-yard box from the center position here. And it looks like Hartle and Santos will stand over this free kick. Albert Rusnik and Jesus Ferreira will have the two-man wall here. And there's a ball in to the back post. And Seattle will come away with it. And quickly it's taken away by St. Louis as Ozazi couldn't get his feet correct. There's a ball in that's going to take a deflection. But St. Louis will retain possession here. As it looks like they were trying to play a ball in. Good deflection right there. As Ozazi will tip it out, and it'll be a St. Louis throw-in. Both teams really aren't doing much in possession. As Newhue tried to win it back, St. Louis will take it right back. As they're trying to work the three down the right-hand side. And Newhue will tip it away, the Cameroonian. And there's a foul. And it'll go against Wallum of St. Louis. So that ends any St. Louis threat there. As it looked like Newhue came up mad as a hornet after that. As he's thinking there may have been a little too much contact there. As we are pushing the 20th minute here in the first half. As it looks like everybody is satisfied. It looks like play is about to resume. All I know is so far within the 20-minute span, it has been all possession, no attack from both sides. As Thomas now will play this long. As Ozazi actually does win the header as that comes down. And it looks like Christian played it to Alex, and now they're going to try to play this up the left-hand side as Newhue will play it to somebody. And it was actually Santos right there of St. Louis City. He tried to play one in. Snyder Brunel didn't make the run. And so it'll be a goal kick. just to let you guys know, that's Sunday Night Soccer, Major League Soccer. Of course, that is going to be FC Cincinnati hosting Toronto FC. So it looks like we'll get a look at Josh Sargent. As here comes St. Louis on the counterattack. Here's Hartle. Tried to play one forward. There's Andrew Thomas. As he makes the save. As Seattle tried to clear it and try to make something happen. Looks like St. Louis came down with the ball. And there is a player down for Seattle. As we see it again. As Hartle played a great ball in. It looked like he might have been offside, but right there was Andrew Thomas. Yeah, it looks like Becker might have been offside. Andrew Thomas can play the ball. As there is a man down here for Seattle as we find out exactly who it is. And it looks like it's Ymar. As we're waiting for this one, let's find out on the bench who Seattle has as far as defenders go. Well, Kim Ki-hee is out, so it looks like Kalani Koza Rienzi maybe. Yeah, they don't necessarily have Cody Baker. Yeah, Cody Baker. And it looks like Ymar is up now. So he's going to try to walk this off. And it does look like Koza Rienzi is getting up. Seattle actually just might have to switch. Switch their tactics. So yeah, it looks like Seattle actually will make the substitution as Ymar comes off. And again, we were talking about this at the top of the live stream tonight. That one of the things that Seattle cannot afford are injuries. And here we are 20 minutes in. And one of their major pieces, Ymar Andrade, is now out for Koza Rienzi as he is hobbling back. So we have no idea if it's a foot. We have no idea if it's a knee, a hamstring. As St. Louis now will play this in. It's going to be interesting to see exactly how Seattle now plays this. It looks like Koza Rienzi now is playing the right wing back position. So maybe Alex Roldan has slid into a center back position as Ozazi is the last man to touch it. So St. Louis will have a throw in off the left-hand side as Rafael Santos will be responsible for the throw in here. As he will try to play it forward. Tipped on, and it finds Hartle. Here's Alex Roldan, 1v1 against Hartle. Coming in as Koza Rienzi, tips it away. As Ozazi just plays it out of bounds. Good Lord. He actually had Snyder Brunel making a run forward. He played it backwards. Good Lord. This is ugly. St. Louis currently leads the possession battle 57-43. But again, a lot of side to side and a lot of backwards. Not a lot of attacking intent in this one. As that ball is going to get played long. looking for Becker, as that'll be played forward. Yeah, I think they're going to say there was a handball somewhere in there. And the ref is pointing to Seattle's possession here. Rusnik is screaming at the ref because of a jersey hold. Play will resume. Seattle will have possession here. As Christian Roldan will just play it back to Jackson Reagan after trying to fake the up pitch switch. As here's Rusnik, he will play it back. As St. Louis now is going to press the issue. There's the switch. As Santos will play it down. Right there is Alex Roldan. Tries to play it forward. Oh, and it does find Ozazi, but taken away right there by Hartle. And there's a whistle. Okay. As we were wondering when the breakthrough is going to come here. As that ball's going to get played forward, and it does find Rusnik. As it looks like Hassani Dotson will play it back to Alex Roldan. As Christian will play it to his brother. Tipped away by Hartle, and now he's just going to play it all the way back to Andrew Thomas. And Thomas now will sky it, and that'll get out of play. So Seattle is just absolutely clunky in possession here in the first half. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if St. Louis scored in the next 5 minutes. Touches so far, it looks like Marcel Hartle has 15, Jesus Ferreira with 8. As Hartle now will play it across the midfield. There's a shot low, but it finds Andrew Thomas, who makes a good save. Nice opportunity right there for St. Louis to at least try to get something on net. You have no idea if there's going to be a rebound. It looks like it was. Yeah, it looks like it might have been Tukert. So Seattle will have possession as Dotson will try to play it forward. As Ozazi gets played on by Brunel. Here's Ozazi. Plays it around. As Rusnik will play it to Christian Roldan, who finds Kozarienzi. Good ball in. Here's Snyder. Has to play it back. And now Seattle will try the other side. Here's Albert Rusnik. And there's a ball in, headed away. Oh, and Albert Rusnik tried to flick it off his back foot, but here comes St. Louis now on the counter. And it's taken away by Jackson Reagan. So here comes Seattle now pushing down the right. It's Kozarienzi. And Albert Rusnik just absolutely shanked that. Shanked an easy one-touch pass. It was intended for Hassani Dotson. And now St. Louis will take over. It is sloppy. St. Louis will have to play it back to their keeper. Process starts over again, but Seattle's trying to press. As Becker now will come in to make a touch to hold possession for St. Louis. As currently right now, they're just exchanging touches between their back three. There's a forward pass. And here comes St. Louis now finally across the halfway line. St. Louis is building up. There's a pass to the left to Santos. He has Hartle on the overlap, but now they're going to play it back again. Here's Santos now. Nice play by Kozarienzi. And there's a whistle. And they're going to say Kozarienzi was the guilty. Oh, yeah, it went off his hand. Okay, I got you now. They will say it was a handball. It was. So this will be a free kick now from a deep position off the left-hand side. As again, it'll be Santos and Hartle. As Santos now will play it in. Back post. Headed down. Kept in by St. Louis. There's a shot as it ricochets in the box. And now it's cleared. Ooh. I think they're going to say foul, maybe. I don't. As Pavana put one on. In any event, it's going to be a goal kick for Seattle. I was kind of curious to see if there was maybe a incidental handball in the box. As that ball was pinging around, it wasn't. As Thomas now will play along. As that's headed all the way down, and it'll get out, and it'll be a Seattle throw-in. So we are 30 minutes in now. We are in the 31st minute here at Energizer Park in St. Louis. 0-0. As both teams really have been very conservative in the attack, as St. Louis will come away with possession there after the throw-in. And now they will play it all the way back to the keeper. As this ball will go long. Right there is Jackson Reagan to bring it down. As Roldan will play it to Kozarienzi. As Christian now will try to free him down the right-hand side. As Snyder Brunel nearly lost it. And they'll try this again. And it looks like there may be a whistle right there. Yeah, there will be. As Christian Roldan will hit the deck. And a yellow card. First yellow card of the matches. Yeah, that challenge was just a little late right there by Durkin. Aggressive tackle, just a little late. So Seattle will have the free kick here. As looks like Jesus Ferreira is arguing a little bit more here. So Seattle now is playing the second of their 5th consecutive road game. They will travel over 7,000 miles and play in 3 different time zones before their next match at home on April the 12th. As that ball is going to get played forward, as Nihu tries to chase it, it'll go up. It'll go past the end line. And of course, as of right now in Seattle, they are preparing for the World Cup, and so currently, right now, they are laying grass for the World Cup. So Seattle, unfortunately, has to play most of their games on the road. When they do play at home, like in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, they are playing in Spokane. So Not exactly ideal. Seattle is essentially forced to the road. As that one will get out, and it'll stay St. Louis ball. As we are pushing the 35th minute. It's interesting with all the brouhaha surrounding the World Cup, especially in the New England area. Money still needs to be paid. It just feels like, I don't know. It feels like not all the horses are in the barn for this one. Not to mention the fact there's not really a groundswell right now for the World Cup. We are less than 100 days away. As that ball pings, and it'll come down to Koza Rienzi. Down the right-hand side, as he tries to play one forward, it actually goes off Durkin. Here's Rienzi. Again, down the right-hand side, plays one into Snyder. Here's Christian, tries to play it into Albert. Jesus plays it out. Ball in. And now it's cleared. That was the best look Seattle's had in about a half hour. But again, it's why aren't you actually, as Christian Roljon tried to play one to the far post, and that just goes completely out. Nobody was there. Again, Snyder didn't make the run. With less than 100 days, I was expecting, World Cup 2026 commercials, promos for players, and a lot more for the U.S. men's national team. It just really hasn't been. But then again, advertising and promotions for soccer in this country aren't really a thing. As that ball gets played back to Andrew Thomas, who immediately has to play it out. And it falls to Snyder Brunel outside the box. So here comes Seattle. Good tip by Snyder. As Uzazi has to play it back. As Koza Rienzi now is going to look. Finds Jesus Ferreira. And Jesus is not clean with his pass, trying to find Snyder Brunel. But play is stopped because there was a quick foul right there by Jesus Ferreira. As Seattle defends in a 4-3-3. As Hartle will weave himself out of traffic as St. Louis tries to break it. That's a good pass right there, and it's going to free an attacker down the right-hand side. And now they'll slow it down. Here's Durkin. There's just absolutely, they just can't string together momentum, and that's the biggest thing I can see from both of these teams. They're far more concerned with hanging on to the ball than they are actually trying to get in good attacking positions. As that ball gets played forward. And there's a whistle now. As this one will go to Seattle. As we are approaching the 40th minute now. I thought for sure we'd see a goal or two here. As that ball is going to get played forward. Ozazi brings it down. Here's Albert, tries to play one. And it's going to actually require a save. And it looks like it was a good save right there for Berkey. Good save right there as Rostic put one on. So it looks like this will be Seattle's first corner of the game. Nice little touch pass right there from Ozazi. And Albert puts one on from outside the box. So this will be Seattle's first corner here. And we will see exactly how this pans out for Seattle. As Rusnik will whip this one in. Back post, headed away. And now it's going to be cleared, and it'll go out for a throw-in. Nice little light touch right there from Ozazi. But again, from distance. No creativity within the attack. As Koza Rienzi now will be responsible for this throw-in. As that ball gets thrown in. And that ball ultimately will get cleared. I think there's going to be a whistle there. Schmetzer doesn't look happy. I don't blame him. I would be inclined to making halftime substitutions at this stage. Snyder Brunel, young kid, has missed 3 runs already, has been depossessed 3 times. You know, they need some semblance of balance on both sides. This is probably where you bring in Paul Arriola to play the left side and move Jesus to the right. As Seattle now will cross midfield. Good ball in. Heavy touch. And here comes St. Louis. There's no whistle. As there's nobody off the left-hand side, as Hartle was drawn into the midfield, and now it's taken away by Seattle. As Christian Roldan now will play it out to Nuhu. So St. Louis's counterattack amounts to nothing. Seattle, by the way, is 5-1-0 against St. Louis all time, so that's certainly plays into this one. As that's going to be last touch, I believe, by Ozazi, so this will be a goal kick. Yeah, I probably would. If I was Brian Schmetzer, I'd make a couple changes. Without the availability of a guy like Paul Rothrock, you know, you do have a guy like Paul Arriola who can do a job for you. And this attack needs balance. St. Louis has actually looked like the better team in possession and in the attack when they do attack. They've had a couple nifty through balls. But so far, for both sides, it's been possession by 1,000 paper cuts. As here's Hartle now, plays it forward. Good touch. As there's going to be a whistle against Alex Roldan. It's going to be a yellow. As we see it again, Alex Roldan actually didn't even touch him. As Tuger hit the deck. Oh man, that's a bad call. That's a bad call. So this will be a St. Louis free kick. Didn't look like he touched him. So this will be a St. Louis free kick from a very dangerous area, actually. Looks like they're about 10 yards outside the box off the left-hand side. And it'll be Santos, most likely. Actually, it's Hartle who's going to try to put one to the back post. There's Thomas, and he's there. Not exactly the greatest free kick right there. Not exactly the greatest set piece. He just kind of lofted one in there, and Thomas was able to go out there and grab it. As Christian Roldan will play one forward. Tapped away and now shot all the way up. As Berkey now will try to play it long as that ball got played all the way back to St. Louis's keeper. As Snyder Brunel does a good job of holding the ball there. Here's Nuhu. Runs into trouble. Taken away by St. Louis. There's a shot, and there's Andrew Thomas right there with the save. As, Nuhu just dribbled into trouble, dribbled into 3 defenders. As St. Louis is doing a good job here of pressing. As Hassani Dotson now will clear it off to Nuhu. Good touch right here. Here's Albert. Frees it off to Jesus Ferreira. As Dotson will try to push it up the left. Runs into trouble. Tipped away. And St. Louis now will try to counter. As we are now in stoppage time with 3 minutes of added time. As St. Louis will try to bag a late first half goal. That's good defense right there. But it will get out, and I think this is going to be a St. Louis corner here. And it looked like Kozarienzi did a very good job to take the ball away from Santos, except the touch was too heavy and it goes out. And this will be St. Louis's first corner of the match at the 47-minute mark. As it'll be Santos now taking the corner. As Tukert is being marked by Snyder Brunel inside the box. As Hartle now will play one. Punched away by Thomas. There's a shot low, and it'll take a deflection. And out of play. It was a good punch away right there by Thomas. The shot comes in low, and it looked like it was Durkin that got his foot on it. Trying to redirect it, it just goes wide. So it'll be a goal kick here as we are now in the 48th minute. So 3 minutes of stoppage time is up. And they're just going to blow the whistle. So that's the end of the first half. As Seattle and St. Louis are even at 0-0. So let's go ahead and take a look at the halftime stats as St. Louis leads the possession battle 52-48. XG is 0.26 to 0.03. Total shots 7-2 St. Louis. Shots on target 3-2. Neither team has created any big chances. Accurate passes 226 for St. Louis, 194 for Seattle. Fouls committed 6-5 St. Louis. Both are even at corners at 1. When you look at XG from open play, it's quite disturbing. As St. Louis, by the way, I mean they're not great either. 0.19, but Seattle's 0.02. That's pretty bad. Again, total shots 8-2 for St. Louis. Shots inside the box 5-1 for St. Louis, and shots outside the box 3-1. Total passes 252 to 231. Passes in the own half 121, 113 St. Louis. Opposition half passes 105 to 81. Accurate long balls. Seattle does lead that 6-3. Accurate crosses 1-0 for St. Louis. Seattle has 10 throws to St. Louis's 7. Touches in the opposition box 9-6 St. Louis. Defensively, Seattle is leading the tackle battle 12-9. Interceptions, this is key. St. Louis with 7, Seattle with 2. It just goes to show you the passing-wise, Seattle has been absolutely dog shit. Clearances 16-6 for St. Louis. Keeper saves, Seattle 3, St. Louis 12. The duel battle is even at 21 apiece. Ground duels 18-14 Seattle. Aerial duels 7-3 for St. Louis, and both teams have 1 successful dribble. Let's see. Does Messi speak English? Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And how is ex-Newcastle player Miguel Almiron doing? He's doing okay. He's not what he was the first time around for Atlanta United, but he's okay. So first half wise, it was if you guys are if you folks are religious, pardon my French, but it was dog shit. Really what we saw in that first half were two teams just trying to possess the ball, not doing much, trying to find ways through the midfield, except both teams defensively have done a fairly decent job defending that midfield. And so what we have seen are two teams trying to work their way down the wings. For St. Louis, they've actually found a little bit of success on the right-hand side. Trying to work it with Orozco and Tukert seems to have a little bit of success. The playoff in the mid between Durkin and Wallum has been fairly decent, not exactly great. When they have tried to go down the left-hand side, they realize that that combination of Santos and Hartle is something they have to keep their eye on. So Seattle's done a fairly decent job of mitigating the damage they're doing. But again, it hasn't necessarily been great. And for Seattle, they're just disjointed. That right-hand side hasn't necessarily been working, hasn't necessarily worked all that well. And again, Snyder Brunel, young kid, but he's been bullied off the ball a handful of times, hasn't made runs. And so from that standpoint, Seattle is stuck in a position where they're trying to work that down the left-hand side, trying to find combinations between Roldan, Rusnik, and Ferreira, trying to get Tolo to push up. But of course, St. Louis understands that. And so from that standpoint, they've essentially overloaded the left-hand side to prevent Seattle from beating them. And so without the added long ball, trying to play one and maybe over the top, Seattle has looked absolutely toothless. The one time that they did try to play it over the top, they actually got a nice little play between it was Ozzy De Rosario and Albert Rusnik, which resulted from a shot outside the box that required a save. But outside of that, it's been nothing. And so from that standpoint, you're looking at potential substitutions, and this is where having a guy like Georgie Monongo, if you want to go that way, or if you want to go with Paul Arriola and move Jesus Ferreira to the right-hand side, you can easily do that, which in that sense makes a lot of sense. Or you can switch your strikers as well too, because Danny Musovski is on the bench as well too, and so from that standpoint, a little bit more experience in the attack, someone that plays a little bit better off of Albert Rusnik. And maybe Seattle might be able to find something there as well. But clearly, something's going to have to change for Seattle if they want to get into this match. For St. Louis, it feels like they're just going to have to continue doing what they do. They've been very good at winning the ball back in advantageous positions, and when they do get it back, they immediately push forward. And it's proven it's proven that they can find some success off of it because they actually have worked the ball quite well. Two different instances, they played a ball into the box, and it actually took good defending for Seattle to not allow a goal. First one was from Alex Roldan with a time sliding tackle to make sure a shot did go on, and Andrew Thomas again with a good save. And it looked like it was against Becker right there as he was played in to stop a shot on net. But from that standpoint, I feel like St. Louis has kind of been the better team here, and it feels like they're the ones that are knocking on the door when it comes to goals. So we will definitely see exactly how it plays out. Let's see. So the finals today around Major League Soccer, New York City FC absolutely beats the crap out of Orlando City 5-0. And in that match, it looks like Keaton Parks bagged a brace in the 49th and 54th minute. Maxime Crepeau took a red card in the 16th minute as Orlando City were essentially playing with down a man for a good portion of the match. Augustin Ojeda scored. Nicolas Fernandez scored. Maxi Morales scored a penalty as well, too. And so a convincing win for NYCFC. Let's see. New England and the Houston Dynamo was postponed. Inter Miami did beat DC United as Rodrigo De Paul and Messi scored in that one, as they obviously beat DC United 2-1. San Jose ends up beating Philly 1-0. And it looks like Oseni Bunda scored for San Jose in the 59th minute. So good for San Jose as they take 3 points in that match. Charlotte ends up beating Austin 2-1 as Toklamati scored in the 29th, and then Pep Biel scored in the 68th minute. And Austin could only manage 4 shots on net the entire match, so not exactly the greatest performance right there for Austin. FC Dallas, let's see, they play a little bit later. Real Salt Lake is leading Atlanta United right now, 3-2 as this one's in the 90+6. Sergei Salon scored in the 24th minute. Aiden Hezekani scored in the 27th, and Xavier Gozo scored in the 40th minute. That dude is a wonder kid. Atlanta United has 2 goals from Alexei Moranchuk in the 38th and 73rd. And quite honestly, you're kind of looking at it. Atlanta's done the bulk of the heavy lifting with this one as far as possession and shots. But again, Real Salt Lake has done themselves a favor with their 9 total shots scoring on 3. So again, it doesn't necessarily matter the possession. It just matters what you do with the shots that you do create. At the half right now, and it looks, by the way, Columbus and Chicago finished 0-0. Right now, San Diego FC is leading Sporting 1-0 at the half as Anders Dreyer scored in the 39th minute. That dude's awesome. So they currently lead. And Nashville is leading Minnesota 2-1 at the half as Sam Surridge scored and Christian Espinosa also scored. And it looks like Triantis scored for Minnesota. So that one is at the half. And so there is your update from around Major League Soccer as we are getting close to start the second half here in St. Louis, as these two teams have essentially played to what has essentially been a snooze fest. And, I thought we would see early goals. I thought we'd see a team establish their attack early, and what we have seen is just clunky soccer. It's actually quite surprising. I thought we'd see a little bit of a response from Seattle after that match at Real Salt Lake, but it is what it is. So a quick reminder for you guys, because this is the first MLS live stream of the season, and of course, every single weekend we will be doing these live streams as we prepare for World Cup 2026. And I'm curious to know exactly what you guys want to see from this live stream this year, because this, there's going to be some changes within the live stream as well too, as I am going to be going to a green screen OBS system, so we're going to actually have really cool overlays for you guys, and it's going to really enhance this. But that being said, I always like to find out exactly who you guys want me to cover, right? So, if it's Inter Miami, of course we'll be doing Inter Miami. If it's LA, whatever the case may be, it'd be kind of nice to hear back from you guys to find out exactly who you guys want me to cover. So from that standpoint, you can always get a hold of me on social media. And here is the places you can find me on social media: on X at Stateside Footy, Instagram, and of course on TikTok as well too at Stateside Footy. So there's a multitude of different areas where you can get a hold of me. And of course, when it comes to guests, I am still in the works of bagging a fairly decent guest prior to the March window, as I am looking forward to hearing that response. And it's going to be quite big, so definitely stay tuned. It's gonna, like, when I find out for sure, I will put it on the post here on YouTube as well too. So a lot of good stuff is going to be happening as we count down to World Cup 2026, and then all matches for World Cup 2026 will be here on Stateside Footy, not just the U.S. men's national team. Of course, the U.S. men's national team will be featured, but we're going to be doing some live streams from other teams as well too. England, the Netherlands, so it's going to be a nice little mixed, a nice little mix for World Cup 2026, especially as that tournament will weave its way through into the knockout stages as we get to the quarterfinals and finals. All of that will be here on Stateside Footy as well too, because quite honestly, it's the World Cup, man. It's the World Cup. So we are getting set now for the second half here at Energizer Park in beautiful downtown St. Louis, Missouri, as we get started for the second half. And again, from a Seattle perspective, it would make sense to make a few changes coming out of the half. One of the things that is plaguing Seattle is the fact that they're one-dimensional right now, and it would behoove them to make a few different changes so they can at least have some semblance of balance. So their attack, looks a little bit cleaner. From the St. Louis perspective, they just have to keep doing what they're doing, because they were, towards the end of that first half there, they were on the doorstep of getting there first. And we're looking far more dangerous than Seattle in their attacking half. So it looks like it's going to be a matter of time before St. Louis draws the first goal. So both sides will switch, and it looks like Seattle has made absolutely no changes. So that's interesting. As Seattle will actually start the second half with possession here, as they're going to be playing from right to left. And the second half has kicked off here. And here's Kozarienzi. And that ball is going to get played long, and it looks like Ozazi is going to have to try to outbeat his man. He did not, as Berkey will come out to make the play. And St. Louis will have possession here. As that ball is going to be lifted all the way down the left side. That's going to be tipped forward. And it's Jackson Reagan who will play it all the way back to Andrew Thomas, who has to come out to quickly make a play. And he plays one all the way forward. And he's got Albert Rusnik. And Rusnik now will play it in. Back post. Here's Snyder Brunel, and he can't handle it. But he does keep it in. Oh, come on, Koza. You had to play one in right there. Here's Christian. Plays it off to Albert. Albert's going to try to play one in. Oh, and Jesus cannot keep possession. Actually, he does. There's a shot. Oh, and it's a goal. And it's Koza Rienzi who finishes off with a backflip. Unbelievable. I cannot believe he scored a goal. They didn't draw down on Koza Rienzi. And it all starts with Jesus Ferreira getting the ball back. As plays one in as Koza Rienzi was at the top of the box. And it was just a misplay by the St. Louis defender as Koza Rienzi, and it was Wallen who makes an errant pass that frees Jesus Ferreira, and then Koza Rienzi just dribbles in off his right foot onto his left, and there was nobody there to close him down, and that ball's in the back of the net. So Seattle takes a 1-0 lead. So there you go. That's a good way to start the second half as he beats Berkey to the near post. So Seattle gets on the board here in the 47th minute. And it's 1-0. As Wallum just made a bad pass. And Jesus Ferreira took advantage of it. As what is VAR? Checking the goal here. I can't imagine it doesn't look like the ball touches his hand. Yeah. Good goal. Play resumes. 1-0 Seattle. And it looks like, there was a VAR check on the goal to make sure that there was no handball because the ball came up. And I think maybe St. Louis was arguing there could have been a handball. Nope. As St. Louis will throw this in. And it looks like Newhugh just plays it out. And it actually last touched by a St. Louis attacker there. So this will be a Seattle throw-in as they play it in. And now Newhugh is going to have to quickly play it away. As that'll come down. And St. Louis will hold possession as Orozco now plays it back to Berkey. As St. Louis now will try to build. Now, granted, we're only 4 minutes into the second half, so we haven't really seen St. Louis open up, but it doesn't seem like they're playing with the same type of bite as they did at the end of the first half. They were taking chances. Granted, they were small chances, as there's another errant pass, and now Seattle will hold possession. Here's Ozazi trying to dribble past a defender. It's deflected, but right to Albert Rusnik. Here's Albert. Plays one in. Nobody's there except for Jesus Ferreira. As that's played back to Newhugh, who now will play it forward. It's Albert Rusnik. Finds Jesus Ferreira. It's deflected back. And it's taken away by Christian Roldan. Roldan tries to play one on, and that's going to take a massive deflection. Running it down now is Becker. Back to front, side to side. Good Lord, man. Play the ball forward. And they play backwards. Play it forward. There you go. And that's a good defensive play right there. Seattle takes it away as Nihu in with the deflection. And now that ball's stripped. Here comes St. Louis now. Plays it off. Here's Santos. Santos plays one in, takes a deflection. And that will get out. So it looks like it'll be a St. Louis corner. As Seattle was trying to quickly counter off a good deflection from Nuhu Tola, but that ball was just taken straight away. Looks like by Polvard, as he had room to dribble forward. As this ball gets whipped in, and there's Jesus Ferreira quickly to head that away. As that ball gets passed back to their keeper, who's at the halfway line. Here's Orozco. As that ball gets played into Wallum. As Durkin now will make the switch. As Santos is all alone on the left-hand side. And instead of actually just playing a ball in, he allowed Koza Rienzi to close down on him. Now he's going to play one in. That's headed away. And there's Jackson Reagan to clean it away. Clean it up. Oh, wow. Yeah, there's going to be a whistle right there against Orozco as he upended Ozazi De Rosario trying to go up to the header. Except he didn't play the ball. He played the he played De Rosario. So Seattle will have the free kick here as we are in the 53rd minute. As play resumes, as Seattle maintained possession, they nearly lost it there. And Andrew Thomas nearly lost it. And now he's just going to kick it out. Unbelievably, two unbelievably bad touches right there for Seattle. And it gives St. Louis possession deep in Seattle's territory here. And out ball, that's an errant pass, is going to be taken away. And it says Hassani Dotson. And Dotson just dribbles into three defenders. Here comes St. Louis now. Ball in. That's a good sliding tackle right there by Nuhu. So this will be a St. Louis corner as they're going to play this short. Wallum plays it out to Orozco. And now this ball is going to take a clearance. St. Louis will hold possession now. As that was absolutely dreadful. Here's Wallum now down the right-hand side. He's going to try to play one in. Finds his man. That's going to take a good deflection now. As this ball is dribbling around. But it does find a St. Louis attacker, so they're going to try to hold possession. And that's a good interception right there. As Durkin tried to play one in, and now he's going to get whistled for a foul. And it looks like St. Louis is going to make a switch. Oh, yeah. Ooh. As looks like Becker's got a case, though. As he did take a fire in a shot, there was a deflection that went off of Alex Roldan's arm. It was incidental, though. And it looks like they have made the switch now. St. Louis. It looks like Tucker does come off. And it looks like Cordova's come on. So St. Louis will make the first switch here at the 56-minute mark. And it didn't look like Tucker was happy to come off, but down a goal. Nice little play by Becker to hold possession in the mid. As they're going to try to play one forward. As he got there, there was nobody in the box for St. Louis. And Seattle will come away with the ball here. As they're going to play it out left to Jesus Ferreira. As St. Louis now is pressing. As it looks like Seattle's having trouble getting out of their own half. But Nuhu is going to play one forward. Here's Jesus Ferreira, who immediately plays it back to Nuhu. And now all of a sudden, possession switch. And Seattle plays it out. Here's Wallem. Finds Becker. And now they move it to the left. As Alex Roldan will head it out as they try to play one in. Here's Snyder Brunel. Tries to chip it forward and it goes out. So St. Louis again will retain possession. But man, Seattle, since Seattle scored the goal, it's really been all St. Louis on the attack, although they just haven't been able to do anything with the ball. As Wallem tries to play one deep, it'll go off Jackson. Quick throw in. Here's Wallem. As Orozco now will dribble, play it to the left. They'll swing it all the way over to Santos. Santos will play one in. Headed up by Jackson. And there's Andrew Thomas. And they're going to say this one went out. So it'll be a corner for St. Louis. So we'll find out if St. Louis can capitalize here. And it looks like it'll be Hartle taking the corner here. As looks like he has Durkin at the far post. As that one will get out. As it bounced around right in front of the 6-yard box. It looks like Alex Roldan and Baumgartel there got tied up right there in the box. So St. Louis will try it again from the other side. As it'll be Hartle again. Here's the short. As Hartle plays one in. And now Jesus Ferreira will just clear it. The short corner never works. And it looks like, yeah, there's going to be some switches here, as it looks like Danny Muzovsky and Paul Arriola will check in. As looks like Seattle's trying to add to their lead here. As Wallem missed the through pass as Cordova's trying to try to play one in. That's going to be headed away. But St. Louis will hold possession. They're knocking on the door here. Here's Orozco. Plays it all wide to Wallem. He plays one in, headed away by Nuhu. As Ozasi missed the header. As that's going to get played all the way back to Berkey now, who's well out of his goal crease. Well off his line. And now they're going to make the switch to the left-hand side to Santos. Right there is Rienzi. Tries to make a play. And that was an errant pass right there. As Jesus Ferreira frees Ozazi. Here's Ozazi in the box. Tries to shoot between the legs of Baumgartel. Wasn't there. As it looks like Becker right there just slipped. And I think this is going to be a Seattle throw-in. As Seattle is going to make some changes here in just one moment. As Ferreira will play it in. That was a bad throw-in. As Roldan tried to head it forward, there was just nobody in the vicinity. And here comes St. Louis. As Santos now is playing it down the left-hand side. There's a ball in. As that's headed out by Alex Roldan. As Koza Rienzi now will just chip it out. So here come the substitutions. As Ozazi's night's done. And in comes Danny Muzovsky. And it looks like Jesus Ferreira is coming out. I don't understand it. So Areola comes in for Jesus Ferreira. As it looks like the youngster Snyder Brunel will stay on the pitch. Nice to see Areola back. Last year tore his ACL fairly early in the season. As Jackson Reagan now will play it out. As Seattle's been on the back foot now for a good 20 minutes as we're pushing the 65th minute. Outside of the goal, St. Louis has been knocking on the door. Here's Santos now. Defended tight by Rienzi. And it looks like there's a deflection. So this again will be another corner for St. Louis. As that ball gets whipped in, headed away, and it's Wallem. Plays it away to Durkin, chipped in, tried to clear, but there was Wallem. And he will try this one there, but there's Andrew Thomas to bring that ball down. So Seattle now will try to slow things down. And that's nearly taken away. As Alex Roldan now will force to be play it further up, and he gets a whistle. And Baumgartner will take that will take the penalty right there. So Seattle will hold possession. leading 1-0 as we're in the 66th minute now. As that ball is going to get played forward. Here's Muzovsky. Tries to play it in. Seattle will hold possession. And they're going to say offsides. As Schmetzer can't believe it. Here comes St. Louis now, attacking down the left-hand side. As that ball finds Durkin. As Hartle will play it forward to Santos. Good little flick on. It frees up Hartle. There's a ball in, and that's going to get cleared by Newhue. As that ball immediately goes back to the keeper. And so St. Louis now will try to maintain their pressure here. As that ball forward will go out for a goal kick. Nobody was there. Good flick on right there by Santos. The free Hartle. As that somewhat looked like their best scoring opportunity here in the second half. Defensively, so far now, through 67 minutes, Seattle has actually kind of held up quite nicely. As Andrew Thomas will signal the team to go down, as this will be a long goal kick here. As he'll play this down the left-hand side. And it goes all the way over the head. And it looks like last touch by Wallum, so Seattle will have the throw-in. Here's Muzovsky, plays it to Areola. Areola's trying to dribble in between two. There's a deflection. And I think this gets out for a corner. As Durkin tried to save it, but I actually think this goes out for a corner. Now they're going to say throw-in. So it'll be Areola. Last touch by St. Louis as it goes out again. As Seattle's looking for number 2 here to kind of close this thing out. As that ball goes in, it will find Rusnak, who flings it out. And now Alex Roldan will play it all the way back to Andrew Thomas. And they just conceded a scoring opportunity there. Instead of actually trying to potentially put a shot on net, they just conceded possession. So here comes St. Louis now. Good ball in from Santos. Here's Hartle. There's the switch as Wallum was making a run. That's going to get out, though, so this will be a goal kick. As we are now approaching the 70th minute, 20 minutes remain. Seattle does lead by 1. As Thomas now will play this long. Going up is Areola, but it comes down right to Durkin. And now Orozco tries to play it into Cordova. Good 1-2 between him and Durkin. Oh, that's a good flick back. Right there is Christian Roldan. As Seattle's under pressure. Oh, nice. Muzovsky did a very good job. As Snyder Brunel is fouled by Polvara. So it'll be a Seattle free kick here. Good ball movement now. Oh, and Snyder Brunel was trying to play Muzoski forward. Not enough zip on that pass. And immediately here comes St. Louis now. Yeah, Seattle's on the back foot. As they find Wallum on the right-hand side. A nice little play by Muzoski. Tips it away, but right there was Polvara. As they try the right-hand side again, this time with Durkin. As Hartle. A nice sliding tackle right there by Paul Arriola. And down on the ground is Hartle. Here's Hassani Dotson now, and it frees up Newhue off the left. As he's going to play it forward. As Dotson now will make the switch to the right-hand side. Tries to find Snyder Brunel, except he was absolutely dominated there by Santos. And that ball's cleared. Headed back in is Kozarienzi. Here's Newhue now. As they'll try it again down the left-hand side. Here's Paul Arriola. As Dotson almost lost control of the ball. Jesus. That was nearly lost by Jackson. And now it is lost in the midfield. But Seattle comes up with the ball. It's Alex Roldan. And here comes Newhue. Beats 3 defenders. As I think this will be a Seattle throw-in. There you go. Dribble the ball forward. And it looks like Sonny Dotson's going to get a yellow. For undisclosed contact. Okay. It must have been something worthy of it in the run of play. Here's the throw-in now. As that's going to get tipped out. So Seattle will have a throw-in a little higher up the pitch here off the left-hand side. As that comes in to Snyder Brunel. And it immediately just goes out of bounds. So this will be a St. Louis goal kick here. As we are approaching the 75th minute now. 15 minutes remain. As Orozco will push it up. Here's Wallum now up the right-hand side. As here's Becker now. And he'll play it off to the left, and we'll find Santos. That ball's going to take a deflection out. So it'll be another corner now for St. Louis. The Santos has been nice. Santos has been nice tonight off that left-hand side for St. Louis. They just don't have a target forward. As that ball gets whipped in, Thomas punches it away. Off the chase now is Wellham. St. Louis will hold the ball. Deep in Seattle's end here. Here's Santos now. Makes a move, tries to play one in. That's going to take a deflection, so this will be a throw-in. That was a good job right there. So it looks like St. Louis is about to make another change here. It looks like it's going to be McSorley. As Durkin now is in a crowd of yellow, that ball is going to get tipped away, and now that ball's just going to get played up. Oh, nice! Oh, that's going to go out of bounds. Nearly a good little flick forward right there by Albert Rusnak. And there's the change right here for St. Louis as Becker will come off. As McSorley comes on. Not a lot of impact in the game for Becker. So another opportunity now for St. Louis. Fresh pair of legs in the forward line. As there's a chip down the left-hand side into an area where there's just nobody except for a green shirt. It's no play by Snyder to hold possession. St. Louis is now pressing. As that ball is going to get played all the way down over the head of Albert Rusnak. And they're going to call a foul against Danny Muzazi. As they're replaying the goal from Seattle, just a bad pass from Wellham that Jesus Ferreira got on the end of. But play is resumed here with St. Louis on the ball at the right-hand side as Wellham and Orozco are just playing the ball back to each other. And now they weave their way off the right-hand side. Oh, no, they're going to go back again. Here's Hartle. Who's going to try to dribble in. Tried to play it into to McSorley, but now it's taken away by Seattle. As Kozirienzi is getting locked down, Christian comes away with the ball. Tipped forward. Running onto it is New Hugh Tolo. And he's got space now. As the ball moves into the midfield, it's Areola. Here's Rusnak. Tapped forward. Here's Snyder. Good save. As that ball actually stays in. And now there's going to be a whistle. And it looks like it's going to be a yellow against Paul Areola. And that stops the St. Louis counterattack as we are now in the 80th minute. 10 to play plus added time. Here's McSorley, who's going to play one forward. There's a chip headed out by Areola. Kept in by Hartle. Right there is Thomas. Flicked forward. There's Thomas right there to close it down. As McSorley did get on it, but there was just nothing there as Hartle nearly scored. As Thomas now will launch one. Not the greatest of goal kicks, but it comes down to McSorley. Taken away right there by Jackson Reagan. And he'll play it out, and that'll get out of bounds. Oh. Yeah, that was nearly a goal. Good save right there by Andrew Thomas. But now St. Louis is going to try this again. McSorley will pop one straight up. And there's going to be a whistle as Thomas ends up on his back. And I think they're going to say this one was against Cordova. Because St. Louis is providing all the attack, just no end product. Seattle's hanging on by a goal, hanging on by a thin thread, as Thomas will play this deep. As that's tipped down by Christian Roldan. And there's a deflection, so St. Louis will hold possession yet again. And it'll be Wellham pushing the pace from the right-hand side. Now he stops and plays it back, as they're going to try now the left-hand side. And it's Santos covered there by Snyder Brunel. As now they'll work it down the right-hand side again. As St. Louis just has no idea what to do at this stage. Here's Orozco. Again to Wellham. As now Edelman will play it into Hurdle. And now that ball gets cleared. As they're going to play it down the right-hand side again and again. Here's Cordova. Back to Orozco. Back to Wellham. And that ball gets played back. And now it's Baumgartel. Back to the right-hand side. As that finally gets played off Areola now, as that goes out. So this will be a throw-in. I'm more than happy to wind this clock down with just possession-based, like, you know, a passing exhibition here. It looks like the Sounders will make a double change here. As it looks like Cody Baker might come in. And he will. So Snyder Brunel finally comes off the pitch in the 84th minute, so Cody Baker will come on. And it looks like Albert Rusnik is coming off for Petkovicic. And it looks like Snyder Brunel is not happy to be taken off, but let's be honest, he's been mid at best. So here comes St. Louis now, as that ball is going to make the switch to the left-hand side, but right there goes Rienzi, who's just going to knock this out of bounds. So throw in for St. Louis. Quick throw in. As we are now in the 85th. 5 minutes to play. Seattle clinging to a 1-0 lead, as the last 30 minutes has been all St. Louis possession. Haven't really seen much of a Seattle counterattack. Here's Orozco. Plays it forward. Finds Hartle. Edelman will step in. Looks like Hassani Dotson lost his footing, but No ball in. As that ball finally will go back to Baumgartel. So they'll try again. Here's McSorley. Tries to play it in. That's going to take a header and will go out. Muzoski tries to win it, but it finds Santos. Check forward. Try to tip it into Hartle. Now it's finally cleared by Areola. As Muzoski gets pulled down by his shirt, no whistle. Fair. Jesus. As here's Santos now. Good cover right there by Kozarienzi. This looks like Cody Baker had gotten beat right there, but the pass forward will find Orozco, so St. Louis will still hold the ball in their attacking end. Here's Wallem. Now it's Durkin. Now it's Wallem again. Ship forward, and New Hewitt just has to play it out. So I think this is going to be another corner here for St. Louis. And St. Louis will make another change. And it looks like Sang Bin is coming in for Wallem. Yeah, Jay Sang Bin. Sounds like it's Korean as that ball gets whipped in. And it looks like there's going to be a foul here. It looks like it's going to be against McSorley. So it looks like this will be a goal kick here as we are approaching the 90th minute. As it looks like Andrew Thomas is going to play this long. As that ball will get skied out. As there should be a foul. And are they gonna say this is against Christian Roldan? Oh man. No, it's gonna be a Seattle free kick. Yeah, it's gonna say as Jackson Reagan will play this one forward, that'll get out for a goal kick. As they were looking for Danny Muzoski. So quick goal kick here. As Petkovic. And there's a long ball right there from Baumgartel. As that finds Kozarienzi, who will just play this forward. Coming down is Cody Baker. So now Seattle will try to play this one long. And we'll find Petkovic. And he's going to play one in. And there's the keeper. So we have reached the 90th minute now. And they're going to say 6 minutes of added time. How is it 6 minutes? That's a lot of extra time. There wasn't any injuries. As that ball is going to get worked in, that's going to be headed out. St. Louis will hold possession. It'll be Orozco now as Santos has moved to the right-hand side. That ball goes in. Sonny Dotson clears it forward. Right back to Santos, and now that's going to be taken away by Christian Roldan. As he's going to play it forward. That frees Areola up the left-hand side. Here's Areola into the box. Here's Danny Muzoski. Oh, and he couldn't get a clean shot. Here's Baker now. Finds Chris. Oh, whoa. Oh, and nearly, as Paul Arriola was there. He just couldn't get a foot on it. Good ball movement by Seattle, as Danny Muzoski just couldn't necessarily get a clean look as that was deflected. Cody Baker put one on. That got chipped, and there was Arriola who just could not get on the ball. So this will be a goal kick here as we're coming into the 92nd minute now. Good counterattack by Seattle. That was actually their only second of the second half, as Andrew Thomas will collect it. As Thomas will sky this one long. As that'll come down. Nice little play right there by Christian Roldan. As Rienzi will try to play it forward. As St. Louis now will hold possession. Here's Orozco down the right-hand side. And now they'll switch to the left-hand side. Here's Jae-Song Bin. Here's Edelman. Here's Orozco. Now they'll switch it to the right. It's Santos. And they'll work it all the way back to Jae-Song Bin. Here's Hartle. As we are now in the 93rd minute. 3 minutes remain. As Arriola came out to defend Orozco. Good ball in. And then that's going to be cleared by Alex Roldan. And here's Kozarienzi now. Why did you stop, Holmes? And now here's tried to play one on to Danny Mozovsky. And Baumgartel right there. Shoved him out of the way. St. Louis now will try to play it down the left-hand side. Here's Hartle. Oh, nice play by Cody Baker. Taking it away, and there's a clearance. And there's Beery, their keeper, there to play it back in. As we are now in the 49th and a half minute now. Minute and a half remains. Here's McSorley. Seattle's defended it nicely. As Nihu will take this one away. As that gets played out of bounds. And they'll say St. Louis ball, but that's fine. As Beerl now will play it to Edelman. St. Louis tries to reset here, and we have 1 minute left. As that ball will go in, back post, and it'll go out. It'll be a goal kick. As we are approaching now 30 seconds remaining. Yeah, it's Andrew Thomas now will play this long. As that'll go down the left-hand side. As Muzoski. As that ball will go out of bounds. So St. Louis will have the the throw in, and they move quick. As now we're in the 96th minute. This most likely will be their final attack. As that goes out of bounds. I think they're going to say this is Seattle ball. There's the final whistle. As Seattle holds on for a 1-0 victory tonight in St. Louis. As we look at the final stats for tonight, as Seattle finishes with 39% of the possession, with St. Louis holding 61%. XG, Seattle 0.67 to St. Louis's 0.66. Total shots 12-8 for St. Louis. Shots on target 5-4 for St. Louis. Big chances 2-0 for Seattle, and Seattle also missed 2 big chances. Total passes, accurate passes, 531 for St. Louis. Seattle 314. Fouls committed 13-7 St. Louis. Corners 8-1 for St. Louis. They couldn't convert. XG from open plays, Seattle 0.64 to St. Louis's 0.49. So it kind of gives you an idea of the fact that St. Louis did absolutely nothing with their 61%. 61%. Shots on target 3-1. St. Louis. Block shots 4-3 St. Louis. Shots inside the box 6-6. Shots outside the box 6-2 for St. Louis. Total passes 600 for St. Louis to 386 for Seattle. Passes in the own half 193 to 189. Passes in the opposition half 338 to 125, although most of those were sideways and backwards. Accurate long balls 19 16 for St. Louis. Accurate crosses 4-1 St. Louis. Touches in the opposition box 21-20 for St. Louis. Tackles, Seattle won the tackle battle 23-18. Interceptions 10-7 for St. Louis. Blocks were even at 3. Clearances 37-25 Seattle. Keeper saves 5-3 to Seattle. The duel battle is won by Seattle 51-42. Ground duels 41-28 Seattle. Aerial duels 14-10 St. Louis, and successful dribbles 6-4. Yellow cards, Seattle finished with 3 and St. Louis with 1. The highest rated player of this game had to have been Andrew Thomas for Seattle. The keeper had a nice little solid rating. Outside of that, forward players, you're not really going to find too many. So from that standpoint, maybe Jesus Ferreira, but that's about it. So interesting matchup for the first MLS live stream of the season. It was 3 points to Seattle, and of course they're on a 5-game road trip at the moment. And but by no means Yaimar goes down in the first half, and so they have to adjust after 25 minutes. Not necessarily playing with their strongest defensive back line, but good enough to keep a clean sheet tonight. For St. Louis, it really was not taking advantage of the opportunities that were given. Not only did they control the possession, but they put themselves into nice positions on both flanks and did absolutely nothing with the ball. No creativity, no 1v1 to play balls in. Didn't see a lot of that. You didn't even see a lot of interior runs to try to play a ball in. We saw it a couple times in the first half, and they were knocking on the door. But that being said, Seattle did a very good job in their 1v1 defense, and those balls typically that were played down either side ended up going backwards. Not a lot of forward movement, it's a little disappointing because you can see that there's certain players that they have that are 100% quality. But in this one, the problem with teams that don't have strikers is that there's really just no target. And that was kind of my takeaway with St. Louis, is the fact that, wing players, they actually have a couple solid wing players. Their overlapping fullbacks are good as well too. It's just, who are you going to pick out in the box if you don't necessarily have that target 9? And so Becker played it and started it, had a nice little cheeky run in the first half, but outside of that, he was absolutely non-existent. So it is what it is. Let's see. We have Ian XEXE think LA Galaxy win. What do you mean, tonight or just in general? LA is a curious case, man. They really are a curious case because they're a team that was literally built around one guy. And that one guy goes, that, don't get me wrong, they win MLS Cup. They win MLS Cup a couple years ago. And from that standpoint, they had, their forward line of Paintsill, Peck, and Joveljic with Ricky Puig playing underneath was quite literally the best attack in Major League Soccer. And now the problem with Major League Soccer is because of the salary cap and because of the essentially forced parity. When teams are built and they're built against the salary cap, unfortunately, some sacrifices are going to have to be made. And so as soon as they won MLS Cup, they get rid of their striker, and then Ricky Puig goes down. And what ends up being the best attack in Major League Soccer ends up being a liability, because we saw what happened to the LA Galaxy last year. I think they didn't win a match in their first 10 or their first 15 or something like that. And they were shipping goals left and right. And I think even one of their midfield stalwarts goes to LAFC. I think Marky Delgado left and goes to LAFC. And, the team and the foundation in which they won MLS Cup just 2 years ago was completely out the door in a span of like 3 months. And, one of the things that they had to do was at least at the very least shore up their defense. And I think they did that this offseason. But again, Ricky Puig goes down, and, you're looking at, an aging Borussia Dortmund player. And, the question with LA is who's going to score goals. As of right now, the best team in LA is probably LAFC, without a doubt. That attack of, Bouanga and Sonny is lethal. The LA Galaxy just don't have that. And it's actually kind of surprised because it's the LA Galaxy. You would expect them to, bring in at least some name to play in, those premium positions. They just don't have it. So we'll see, man. We'll see how that season plays out. But quickly before we go, the later games that were slated, Nashville beats Minnesota 3-1 as Sam Surridge actually bags a brace in this one in the 26th and 47th minute, with Christian Espinosa getting one in the 33rd minute. So Nashville beats Minnesota 3-1. I like Nashville, man. I really do. I think that team is good enough. Yes, Inter Miami is obviously the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. I don't think that is without a question. But Nashville is a team that is well coached. Nashville is also a team that gets up, they put the ball in the box, they score goals. Last year, nobody was going to beat Inter Miami last year. Even when Nashville got a win in that second game of their playoff series, I think everybody realized what was going to happen in that third game. But that being said, it's another year down the road, another year of them getting better. That squad is solid. Nashville is just a solid squad. And it's going to be interesting to see exactly if they actually hoist a trophy this year. I'm thinking Leagues Cup potentially. Colorado, by the way, is leading the LA Galaxy right now 1-0. And it looks like Darren Yappy scored for Colorado. So they're up 1-0. That's in the 46th minute as the second half has started. Shots are even 4-4, but Colorado currently holds the possession 62-38. So that one is going to be interesting. Quickly, before we go, let's take a look at the Eastern Conference, because we're only through 3 weeks right now, and NYCFC and Nashville currently are on 7 points, with the New York Red Bulls and Inter Miami on 6. Obviously, it's too early for any of these type of conversations. But that being said, it's kind of interesting to see it because NYCFC currently has looks like a +6 goal differential. They've scored 8 and only conceded 2. And Nashville has scored 7 and only conceded 2. And you can see that, they're still unbeaten so far through 3. The Red Bulls have a +2 goal differential. And Inter Miami, here's the thing: 2 wins, 1 loss. And they have a 0 goal differential. They've scored 6, conceded 6. So that's somewhat interesting. Let's see, leading scorers right now. I think it's João Klaus for the LA Galaxy. He's got 3, and Julian Hall for the New York Red Bulls also has 3. Same thing with Leo Messi. But it's going to be interesting, man, how this Eastern Conference is going to shake out. I would probably assume that by the end of the season, Miami will be riding up on top. What's Chicago going to do, right? Are they going to make a summertime move for potentially a Robert Lewandowski? That is still on the table for Chicago. And if they get, that type of quality striker, how does that change their fortunes? Charlotte, that's an interesting conversation as well, too, considering Patrick Aubameyang has left. We'll figure out exactly who's going to be that target striker as well, too. But maybe the surprise is the New York Red Bulls. I don't necessarily think it's that big of a surprise. They're well coached by Michael Bradley, and their Wonder Kids are performing quite well. In the Western Conference, San Diego 3-0, 9 points. San Jose is 3-0 as well, and they're playing good football. They got a +6 goal differential. And the interesting thing was, their offseason work, man. Their offseason work wasn't bad. Bringing in Timo Werner was actually kind of a nice little stroke, a good piece of business. Because I'll tell you what, man, in Major League Soccer, that dude's going to be worth his weight in gold. Vancouver and LAFC are sitting on 7 points. And there's Seattle right there on 6 points with 2 wins. Real Salt Lake again on 6 points. Colorado's on 6 points. So, the Western Conference is where it's going to be in Major League Soccer this season. I think we're all looking at it and understanding that, maybe the top 4 in the Eastern Conference, we're probably going to have a good idea of who those 4 teams are going to be. In the Western Conference, it feels like it's going to be wide open. There are the possibility of 3 different teams that could potentially finish at the top of the pile, with LA, San Diego, and Vancouver, and then you have that next tier down, and it's wide open for that as well too. Is that going to be San Jose? Is that going to be Seattle? Is it going to be Real Salt Lake? Can Colorado have a season? Can FC Dallas have a season? Shit, can even LA have a season? You never know. And then at the bottom of it, it's like you have, what I consider bubble teams, which are Minnesota, Portland, and Austin. You just never know, man. Maybe even the Houston Dynamo make a run. You just never know. Like that is the cool part about the Western Conference. It feels like outside of Sporting Kansas City, there's going to be a potential for movement this season when it comes to those playoff spots. And in the Eastern Conference, who knows how that's going to play out, outside of, maybe the New York Red Bulls, both New York teams, Miami, Nashville, Cincinnati, and then maybe Columbus. Although Columbus has fallen down the pecking order when it comes to the Eastern Conference powers, but it is what it is. I want to thank all you guys for tuning in tonight. It's been fun. And of course, we will be back next week with the MLS live stream. So it's going to be great, man. It's going to be good times. Please do me a favor and make sure you hit that like and subscribe buttons, and also hit the notification bell and show your guys some love. And again, man, let me know who you want to see. I have no problem. Covering your guys' favorite teams. So just let me know. Put that in the description. Put that in the description, or put that in the chat, and just let me know. So again, man, thank you guys tonight, and I'll see you next weekend. Thank you. Good night, guys.
Rusted goalposts under fading skies, tattered flags waving dreams.